Rookie camp is underway, and here we are. Let's get this out of the way as usual. It wouldn't be the show if there wasn't at least one technical snafu. So apologies in advance. I got the AirPods today. Yeti, if you're watching this thing here is a piece of junk. So Yeti, you're on call. Marco D'Amico, brand new week, brother. You are in the building on a rockin' Saturday night. Good to see your face again. Let's get going with some early impressions. Looks like Ivan Demidov might have an inside track on making the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes, as he tells us, Ivan Demidov.
Say that again, say it, but slowly.
Ivan Demidov.
Okay, very good. I like it.
Yeah, we practiced with him. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I bet.
But no, he was just a star out there. I mean, I think a man amongst boys in that kind of a situation, right? And I think like when you look at why he was there, not so much from an evaluation perspective, but really just wanted to give the kid, the full rookie feel, right? And you don't want to skip steps just because X or Y. And I think there was the same kind of deal with Hudson last year. Obviously, Demidov to a little bit more of a profound degree. But I mean, every time he touched the puck, fans were chanting. Some of the plays he was making out there are just mind-boggling. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much that you could really evaluate from the young man other than he was exactly as advertised. But it's just, I think it really kind of compounds the excitement that you have because it's just clear as day that this is a top 6 NHL player with such a career ahead of him. So fans really ate into it. I mean, it's just, the love affair is never going to go away, in my opinion. It's just incredible to see it go. And I think the best part was like he loved it. He ate it all up. He's just like, this is the first game back from the summer and they're in playoff form. Like, this is nuts. I love it. And I think, the fans made this rookie tournament what it was because, like a lot of other tournaments across the league you're seeing right now, just like dead. Mm-hmm. Montreal, like, looks like an April game. And it was just rocking. The wave was going. The building was loud. It's just gorgeous. So it was great to be in there, and I think the kids really enjoyed it.
And you got the reaction right away every time Demidov was touching the puck. I mean, fans in anticipation, and I get it. Speaking to some older Canadian fans over the last few weeks, and by older I mean those that were there as part of the '70s dynasties. With the annual rite of spring would be the Stanley Cup parade down St. Catherine Street. And for people that are, your age, my age, everyone in between, the identity of the Montreal Canadiens, as far as I'm concerned, has always been a goaltender. I can go back to my early memories when Patrick Roy's rookie season, all the way up until the great Carey Price got traded to San Jose, that every goalie in between has more or less been the heartbeat of the Montreal Canadiens. And I really think, as we spoke to and alluded to last week on an earlier episode, the culture change in Montreal is so evident to me. How many players were there watching the rookies play on Saturday night? How many NHL players on the Canadiens were there? We talked, you and I, about the summer months, them staying here, scrimmaging, practicing. To me, it all adds up, Marco, to one big thing. They all have one common goal, and they're all striving to get to that common goal. And I don't know if I need to lay it out for you, but that common goal, I'll lay it out anyway, is the Stanley Cup. And these are the small steps I believe you need to take in order to be that team that is tight, that can get you through 4 rounds of a playoff. To me, it's absolutely huge. It's a culture change in Montreal. Do you see it that way or maybe a little differently?
No, I definitely see it that way. I think one of the things that you could easily take into consideration as well is just like, there were 3 weddings on the team this year, right? So that definitely helped keep guys close. But you look at 2 guys like Laney and Demidov, and you're just like, these guys spent basically the whole summer in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of coming in and coming out and coming in and coming out, throughout the season. Lane Hudson being up here for a lot of that time as well. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just an understanding that they realize you can have all the talents in the world, but if you are not constantly just working on your game and working in the gym, then you're wasting prime developmental time, right? Because you really, within that 19 to 24 years old window is your prime physical development and skills development window, where you really kind of reach that level of prime performance, right? Because before, you used to really kind of hit your prime like 27, 28. Nowadays, if you look at the performance charts, it's actually like 23, 24, right, where a lot of players, like the best players, really kind of hit their prime. Now, obviously, the Canadiens are building a culture of, we don't want the best players. We want the best players at getting better. And I think that's the key, right? Is that if you get the kind of players, and I think Nick Suzuki embodies this to the T, but if you get the kind of players that consistently improve year over year, then you are going to have yourself a culture of workhorses, and talented workhorses at that. And I think, when we were talking to Ivan, the thing that came out the most was, he was in the rink sometimes twice a day. Jim with that as well. Like you had to have seen it. And it was kind of funny, when he walks over to you after the game is over, and he's just sitting there, in his demeanor, guy is not breaking a sweat. Like he was conditioned and ready for this game. And I feel like, and again, obviously it's a rookie camp, the physicality was surprisingly there. Not so much what you would expect from an NHL game, but still, and he didn't break a sweat, right? Because he spent all summer getting ready for this. He is raring to go. His body is ready. And this is one actual summer of training, because he didn't get to train at all last summer. So I like that. I like the camaraderie. And I think that, past years, you'd see a player or two in the stands. I think, this year, having like a good, 2/3 of the team in the stands watching the game. And I'd also like to add like a good, I believe, like dozen of alumni players also in the 100 section. Like the Canadiens made use of this to really kind of give back to the fans. So I thought that was really good. And, also evaluate some of these younger guys. There's some players that really kind of stood out. We spoke about Demidov, but that top line, with Oliver Kapanen and Florian Xhekaj was just something fun to watch.
Well, multi-point nights. I mean, not that, we're going to get X's and O's here on the 4-3 loss on the Saturday to the rookies from the Winnipeg Jets, but it's kind of, for me, when you go through the process of watching these young bucks try to establish themselves, to me, it's about checking boxes, like taking these small progressions towards ultimately becoming an NHLer. Oliver Kapanen, Jacob Fowler, David Reinbacher, Florian Xhekaj. There were a bunch of instances on a Saturday night in front of a rocking crowd. It was interesting that walking around looking for a place to have dinner on Saturday before the game got going, it was awesome to see, brother, around like Mountain, Notre Dame Street, pouring down to Saint Jacques, up to Saint Antoine. The amount of fans wearing their Habs jerseys, Caulfield, Suzuki, young kids. I like that the Canadiens do this. It gives a chance for young fans to go to games that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have a chance to go to. So, like, I live downtown. I live close to the Bell Center. The vibe around the building again, it feels great. It feels great to see that hockey's right around the corner, and with the legitimate hope that this team is making big steps in terms of getting to where they want to, and that's establishing a young core group of players. So talk to me outside of the Demidovs here, like standout performers, guys that check boxes for you on a Saturday night.
Definitely. I mean, there's a couple, but let's start with Florian Xhekaj just off the hop. I think, Simona Xhekaj deserves a lot of credit here, man. Because
Mama's cooking.
That boy was moving some players on that ice. And I don't say this is like a guy that just like absolutely wants to see like guys crushed. We'll get on Owen Prutz in a second. But I think Florian Xhekaj used his body well, in the sense that, yes, you're bigger, but how bigger? How do you use that? And man, he was just throwing hits, finishing checks, but also like using his body to create a little bit of extra space in tight passing with Demidov, that like very close to some goals. They got robbed, I'd say at least 4 or 5 times by Winnipeg in terms of just great play. So there is a lot that you liked. And I think one of the things that we spoke to with Pascal Vincent about Florian Xhekaj specifically was they don't know what his ceiling is. They just keep seeing what he can do and if he can follow and this and that. And, one of the things he said is like last year, Florian played basically fourth line minutes.
Right.
Still put up 24 goals and played, defensive minutes with, bottom six AHL comp, right? Until they got into the playoffs. And then he was given, I believe, Davidson and Owen Beck in the playoffs. And that line looked great. But the idea was, okay, he's clearly proven that he can produce in the American Hockey League by himself. What's going to happen if we give him talent? And I think that was the more interesting evaluation process, is because when you look at guys like that, especially when you have like 24 goals and like half the assists, you're like, okay, this guy's, a one-trick pony. He's just a finisher. He's just a scorer.
Great.
I liked that we saw that playmaking ability. I liked that we saw the vision. I liked that we saw the complicity with a guy like Oliver Kapanen, who's more of a skills guy, and obviously an Ivan Demidov, who's like much more of a, everything. And so when you have a guy that's able to come in, be a bulldozer, make some space, cause ruckus in front of the net, I felt like he performed perfectly in that kind of a role, because he is now showing the organization, hey, I could be that complementary piece if you need me, on an offensive-minded bottom six and potentially higher should he continue to develop. I think that's massive. Florian obviously was one. Oliver Kapanen, I found, was a great complementary piece on that line as well. Followed well. Something you would expect, though, one of the older players on the camp roster, but he looks primed. Good shooting mechanics. Found each other very well. Was not out of place defensively. So I thought that was pretty strong. I won't go too much more into it because I think, he's very pro specific and not someone whose evaluation is necessarily in a, like a exponential progression chart, but just consistent. But the one guy I've been harping on, and I think you know exactly where I'm going to go with this, but one guy I've been harping on since the playoffs is Adam Engstrom.
Yeah, what a skater, eh? He is. I mean, I'm going to use the word beautiful. I mean, he's beautiful to watch in terms of his fluidity when he's on the ice.
The edges, the ability to glide with the puck and then instantly explode off the first couple of edges. I think that type of skill helps him evade coverage so well. And then he's not afraid to like walk around and do his thing and get involved. And then that pairing with David Reinbacher, I really enjoyed those two together, outside of a couple of brain farts. And I felt like that complicity was really good, where Reinbacher would get to the middle of the blue line. Engstrom would kind of do his thing. Or one of the other elements was Engstrom, I believe, had the highest count out of defensemen in terms of successful zone entries, in the games. And I think that's another skill that is extremely coveted, and outside of producing offensively, I think he did everything else. Just sound in his own zone, really good at trying to get guys out into the corners, really good at being able to skate the puck out of the defensive zone and just being able to calm the play down. And then just being able to be part of that counterattack, either directly or indirectly through a really good first pass. Everything you would want in a prototypical top 4D in the making. So I continue to be impressed. Obviously, like, this is a guy who's a little bit more polished, played in the pros in Europe, had a good progression curve in Laval last year. But, Pascal Vincent continues to say, like, it's not a question of does he have an NHL future. It's just what's the ceiling?
Before we move on, let's call it like we see it, as we pride ourselves of doing on this program. How many NHLers that potentially could have impact did this fan base watch? Right? I'm not talking, I mean, NHL is an NHL. I'm not disrespecting NHL players, but the potential NHL players anyway. But how many guys did the fan base watch this weekend that they can take away and saying, they're going to play in the show, and they're gonna have an impact. I could see it. How would you answer that?
Yeah, in terms of impact players, that's a different story, right? I think you have Demidov, obviously. I think Florian Xhekaj is going to have an impact with his shoulders for sure. In the NHL, I think this is a guy that's your prototypical bottom six crash and bang kind of player. I think Oliver Kapanen has a career in this league, whether with Montreal or otherwise. I think Owen Beck is a 5-tool player. It's just a question of, being able to find that offensive consistency in terms of his production, because everything else is just off the charts. David Reinbacher, obviously. Adam Engstrom, I think, is pretty obvious as well. But then you really have to get into the nitty gritty. Like, I like the combativeness that we saw from Vincent's Roar a lot. I found he was really strong. A lot of guys worried about how small he was. The guy was pushing guys like 6'4" guys into the boards, no problem, and like taking checks and like not even budging. Guy was so strong, lower body on his edges. It's just incredible to watch. But again, like, who knows what if it's a full NHL career. Same thing with Tyler Thorpe. I thought that he was really good in pockets, but the chemistry just wasn't there. Reading the plays wasn't there, but he obviously has the tools. And then Owen Protz, I mean, such a throwback player. I mean,
my gosh.
But good defensively as well. Just like picked his spots and then just crushing guys out there. Like, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but like to the point where like you would feel the crowd's reaction to the open ice hit, and you're just like, oh my God, okay. And it just got everybody right into it. And it was clean, it was well calculated, and that's an art to do so without like overextending yourself aggressively. Like I thought that was really impressive to me. And we joked about it in the room. I think it was Stu Cowan who asked Ivan Demidov, like, I bet you're happy that Owen Protz is your teammate. And, Ivan just kind of smiled. He's like, I'm happy for all my teammates.
Yeah, right. Wink, wink. But a little extra too, right?
I'm just happy I'm not getting crushed out there. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? Seriously, jokes aside, it's very important that if Demidov morphs into, I mean, he's the Calder front runner before a puck drops on the regular season. It's a vital importance that the Montreal Canadiens, if this guy hits, and all signs point to 93 hitting, that he's surrounded perhaps by a couple of guys that if you look at him the wrong way or breathe on him with bad breath, there's a couple of guys who are going to make you pay for making that decision against 93 out there at any point, right?
Yeah. I mean, guys, could you imagine that at the time the Hamilton Bulldogs had Florian Xhekaj and Owen Protz on the same lineup?
Yeah.
Crash and bang, baby. Crash and bang.
Let's go. So the rookie camp impressions are obviously strong. It's all about, like I said earlier, checking boxes, trying to look very much the part, and a few guys perhaps succeeded and had some impressions. And the NHL players, Lane Hudson, Nick Suzuki, NHL players, the captain watching to see the next wave in terms of, oh boy, here we go. Like, it's I get it for the fan base. I'm happy for the fan base that there's a realistic shot, not a pipe dream, a realistic shot, Marco, of really offensive-minded players populating the Canadiens roster.
Yeah, and I think, you say that with the Michael Hages and the LJ Moonies and the Philip Ericssons of this world, who actually scored a hat trick the other day, actually. Not involved in this process, right? So, like, it is really fun. It is really fun to watch how these players are kind of melding in that kind of identity and being able to build chemistry within it.
Now, the Montreal Canadiens, watching this on a Monday, they're at Laval sur le Lac, and then Wednesday, the main camp opens, and we're that much closer. You can support us by supporting our sponsors, littlebearonline.com, for all your pet's needs, family-owned business that cares about your pet as much as you do. Check out their website, littlebearonline.com, as they have monthly promotions and new promotions that change on the fly. So you might want to update that and start thinking about, like we used to, supporting local still matters in 2025. There's Marco D'Amico with RG Media. You can follow him on all your favorite socials at MN D'Amico.